Hi, everyone. This old lady gets to talk to you again about pregnancy and childbirth. So, just let me remind all of you who I am. I have been working in childbirth and pregnancy for the past 50 years. But when I started in the early 70s, I worked with hundreds of mothers and fathers who we just developed the skills in birthing better. We were in the US then. Everybody was sort of going into the hospital. We didn't have a lot of choices. There weren't any midwives. People would like things to change. But fathers were coming in as birth coaches because Lamaze and Bradley method was very, very popular from the late 1950s to the mid 1970s. We wanted our husbands, our partners, to come in and help us. And Lamaze and Bradley, two obstetricians, said low risk women should have some skills. But most of the families I was working with was high risk, and we wanted skills too. And the reality is that multiple millions, so just ponder that, multiple millions of expectant families in the United States took the Lamaze classes. They were taught probably in every single hospital. And we went in to the hospital with their standards of care of the day, all the fiddle of the assessments, monitoring, and procedures. And we had some level of skills, not the greatest skills, but they were the first skills ever in the world that women were told, yes, you can do some breathing, and this is how you do it. Didn't always find it sustainable and adjustable. And we wanted fathers to participate in the birth of their baby rather than going to a bar and handing out cigars. And so my generation were very empowered by birth, even though we had a lot of fiddles and we didn't always have the nicest birth in the world. But by the 1980s, that had changed. The natural birth movement became worldwide, and the message to women was, you know what kind of birth you want, make a birth plan, and fathers shouldn't coach. But the reality is that we're all in this together. And in the 70s, the families I worked with, we developed better breathing, better communication within ourselves and to each other, and a way of using touch relaxation to cue a woman to soften inside her body. Then in the 1980s in the US, the cesarean rate rose because of societal changes. And those changes were things like birth control, safe termination, women going into the workforce, our families being smaller. And we changed, nope, let me say this. We began to wear bikinis, and we asked the medical profession to change how they were doing a cesarean incision, which was a classical incision, which was from our pubic bone to our belly button. And we didn't want to be left with an ugly scar. And we were also unconscious for that type of surgery, and we couldn't have our partners with us. So in the 1980s, we put societal pressure on the medical profession, and they came up with the bikini cut. They didn't name it by themselves. It was in response to us wearing bikinis. And we were awake with epidurals or spinals, and our husbands could be with us finally. And the other thing that happened was that more women chose to have cesareans because we were no longer comfortable with the very long labors that had been perfectly acceptable and were normal and natural before that. So if somebody labored over 36 hours, you're more likely to say, yes, I'm okay with having a cesarean because I can try for a VBAC with this type of an incision. It's safer. So in the 1980s, fathers developed the body skills in birthing better so that we could learn to prepare our body for birth. And how did they know how to do that? Well, they'd looked at a pregnant body and went, big object in a container, can't change the object, can we change the container? And it turns out we have the same body. We blink, we cough, we can tighten up our rectum. We're all sitting on bones we sit on, and we can both make more space between those bones to help a grapefruit-sized object come down through and out. So fathers develop the body skills. So there we have it. From 24 weeks onward, birthing better skills were targeted for us to self-learn at home, to prepare our body for birth, to create space, mobility, and softness on the inside, then learn some really good breathing skills, some really good communication skills to ourselves that answered questions like, but I hate it. So how do you continue to work through something you don't like? And communications to the other person, such as instead of take your effing hand off me, that you can go like that or like that, and they know when to take their hand off, but then you can go like this, or put their hand somewhere where you'd like it to be. Better communication and touch. We knew that it was tiring for men to keep saying to women, would you relax, which wasn't a good word anyway. So we learned how to soften inside our pelvis, but that's hard to explain to people. And so we learned how to touch so that that would cue a woman to soften inside her body. So there you were in 1980s. So we were 20 years into developing these skills. And then something happened in the 1990s. Men sort of went, okay, 24 weeks is 6 months of pregnancy. And gosh darn it, from day one of conception, everything changed in my family. Everything changed in our relationship. Everything changed with how she was as a person. And we're just left behind. So we have been running to catch up, trying to jump over hurdles, don't have an effing clue what it is she wants or how to help. And by 6 months, when we can just begin to feel our baby move, we're already left behind. We're doing our best. And it turns out, going back to the body skills, we are all one human. And what we learned was that all of us, men and women, from conception onwards, that was like just a black hole. We're all skilled beforehand. And then pregnancy occurred, and then birth occurred, and we were spit out with the assumption that we could parent just fine. And it's a struggle because if we don't have skills specific to the task, then we struggle. Sometimes we can develop skills. We all do eventually. How do you deal with a crying baby? Right? How do you know when a baby's hungry? So what dads did was they went, okay, we want to be more skilled as a human being. It's first, we're human beings. We like to be skilled. And we're all skilled before pregnancy and everything that we do. So we wanted skills to become skilled in pregnancy. And we had the skills to prepare our body for birth together and that we could both feel. We had the skills around breathing, communication, and touch, and the soft skills that tied it all together, like what do you do with the niggling labor? What do you do if you hate it? All these things, we, as birthing better families, we knew we were on the right track. And now we had the Pregnancy Academy skills that dads developed. 10 skills, simple skills, like have a sense of humor, or develop a second set of arms, or a second set of eyes, or awareness to detail, or see what needs to be done and do it, or be patient. But those 10 skills, what we discovered, no, I shouldn't say that, what fathers discovered, what men discovered, was we had to use those skills towards ourselves, towards the woman, and towards our baby. For example, pregnancy, conception occurs, and you find that your woman is vomiting over a toilet. She doesn't want to be touched. She doesn't want to have sex. And you're going, what the hell's happening? And she's grouchy. So don't you think patience would come in handy? But if you use patience just to her and not to your baby, that you cannot feel for another 20 weeks, or towards yourself, then the skills aren't rich enough. So dads develop these 10 skills, and they're in a Fathers to Be Pregnancy Academy for the first 4 phases of pregnancy: conception to 12 weeks, 12 weeks to 24, 24 to 36, 36 to the birth. We didn't do one for the birth, but that's 5 phases. That's the 5th phase, because you're still pregnant until your baby's out of your body. But then we developed the Mothers to Be Pregnancy Academy using those same skills, because the reality is fathers are developing the skills, but mothers need to as well. And why? Because we're all human beings, and it is important for us to work together. It's called teams. It's called partnership. Sometimes it's called marriage. So when we then had a continuity of skilled self before we got pregnant, during pregnancy, to prepare for our baby's birth, to learn skills to use In all births, 100% of pregnant women have to do the activity of birthing our baby. So we then use those skills. And after the birth, do you think patience comes in handy? Attention to detail, awareness, a sense of humor, second set of arms, second set of eyes. Yes, all those skills then are repeated again during our parenting. So, shout out to all you fathers to be. And if you're a woman listening to this and you have a partner, share this. Sit down together and talk about it. What are the skills that you use with each other during pregnancy to make certain that this incredibly infrequent, massively big, period of your life and this one-off event called birth is something that both of you go through feeling confident, competent, and skilled. It's important. We want to grow a skilled birthing population. Now, before I get off, I want to ask you to help us. You're important, just like I'm important, except I'm 80 years old. So you need to pass on this new childbirth concept. The one we're in now is make a birth plan, don't become skilled, because women know how to birth. Cows and cats aren't taught. We've always birthed. We just know how to do it. We just need to tell people what kind of birth we want and then expect them to give us the birth that we request. And fathers should just support our choices, but they shouldn't coach us. They shouldn't help us or tell us what to do. This is, frankly, from our viewpoint, nonsense. And it's been nonsense since the 1980s. We had an opportunity in the 1980s that birth skills and birth choices go together. And that's what we want you to now spread. Thankfully, now there are a number of skills-based methods besides ours. But birthing better was the only skills-based method evolving from the mid-70s until the 90s, because the message was women don't need skills. They know how to birth, and fathers shouldn't coach. So now you should tell your midwife, your doctor, your childbirth educator, your family members, your friends, and social media, become skilled. Choose any skills-based method that works for you. Start around 24 weeks. Start to prepare your body for birth and start to learn skills that you commit to using as your birth unfolds, no matter how it unfolds. It's an activity, you got to do it. And maybe you will find some other pregnancy academy courses that give you specific skills rather than just eat better, don't drink too much alcohol, don't smoke, get some exercise. You really need skills, and those skills are practical. How to be patient with each other, right? How to have a bit of a sense of humor when things are a bit rough. How to see what needs to be done and do it for each other and for yourself. Okay, so you have the message. Go out and spread the word, because I can't do it on my own, but you can. You have social media. You can direct people to this video, or you can direct people to the skills-based method you like best. But we need to do this. We're having a problem, and the problem is not what you think it is. The problem is that we have a disconnect from our capacity to work together, and that doesn't have to be the problem anymore. We're all one humanity, and we love being skilled. So let's become skilled. All right, see you again next week. Bye-bye.